Our study of language, sound, structure, and phonetics will involve transcribing a lot of words. Words themselves have phonological structure to them. One unit inside of a word is the syllable. The pronunciation of words are broken into syllables, and most people have a pretty good idea about what the syllables are in a word. If you need to transcribe syllable boundaries, you can do that using a period. So for example, word, which is just a single syllable, would have no period in it. Phoneme would have one period in it for the two syllables, pho and neme, and syllable has three syllables in it. There are some cases where things are a little bit harder in terms of identifying how many syllables there are or what the syllable boundaries are. That happens with diphthongs, vowel sequences, cases where we have an L or an R sound after a vowel. So words like fear, fool, every, celery, curl. Different people may have different opinions about how many syllables there are, or different pronunciations might sound like different numbers of syllables. Generally, when we're doing things in class, if you don't have a recording or an example that you're listening to, just try to think of a typical clear production, like if somebody asked you to cite what a word was. Syllables are divided into subunits in phonological structure. There is the onset, the nucleus, and the coda. Typically the nucleus is a vowel, but there are some cases with nasal sounds or approximate consonants that we will talk about where those are the nucleus for a syllable. It is the case that every syllable has a nucleus. You can't have a syllable without a nucleus. In some of the examples I've done, there may be nasal or approximate nuclei where I've transcribed them with a schwa so far, like I did at the end of syllable. We'll discuss different ways of transcribing that final syllable in syllable when we get into talking about consonants. The onset consonants are anything we have before the nucleus. The coda is anything that follows the nucleus. Both the onset and the coda are optional in English. Some languages require every syllable to have an onset. Some languages don't allow syllables to have a coda. Linguistic analysis of these constituents and how they're grouped together is sometimes shown using a tree-type structure. So here I have a big W at the top for the word unit, two sigmas for the two syllables inside there, onset, nucleus, and coda indicated for each of those syllables. For, in this case, the two-syllable word blackjack, like the card game, that I chose in part because it would have all the different positions for all of the for both of the syllables that are in the word. We know that these divisions inside the syllable aren't just a thing that linguists made up, because we can see various processes in language that depend on those. One example is Pig Latin, a word game that kids learn. It's something I learned when I was a kid, where you rearrange the sounds inside of a word on the basis of sub-syllabic units, in this case the initial onset. So the way you make words in Pig Latin is to take the initial onset off, put it at the end of the word, and then add a to finish the word out. So my name, Stefan Frisch, would be Effenstay Ishfrey in Pig Latin. Pig Latin version of Pig Latin would be Igpe Attenley. And if you take something like phonetic transcription and do it in Pig Latin, you get Anetic Fe Anscription Tray, which is seems kind of weird, probably because when I was a kid learning Pig Latin, we didn't have such long words that we were applying it to. We have a little more terminology related to phonological structure of words. A syllable that had a coda consonant in it is referred to as a closed syllable. A syllable without a coda consonant in it is called an open syllable. The distinction between open and closed syllables is relevant to some things that happen in phonological structure in language, and they can also be useful descriptors for types of syllables or words that people may have pronunciation problems with. We also have terminology for phoneme positions relative to the whole word. I used these on the word list that I provided. Initial sounds are at the beginning of the word. Final sounds are at the end of the word. Medial sounds then are ones that are not initial or final.